Hello, my name is Ashanti Chaplin. I am an artist, curator, and educator. I am happy to be a part of the ArtNow exhibition amongst beautiful artists.
And I am Gabriel Royal. I am composer, cellist, and visual artist sometimes, and educator.
I was approached by the curator, and we were just having a conversation, Lindsay Avaye, and we were having a conversation just about the show that she was working on, and I happened to be working on this project where I was working on collecting earth from the different parts of the historical Black towns, and something really clicked. And my actual project started with a poem. And that's when she was like, oh, well, the show that I'm curating is, really inspired and references Joy Harjo's poem, Soul is a Wanderer. And yeah, we just got to talking, and it really made sense after that conversation that I would join in and be a part of the exhibition. Well, the performance is really about giving reverence to all of the different clay and soil and earth that's been collected from the 13 historical Black towns of Oklahoma. It's really the unveiling of that. And most of the movement in the performance is a spiral walk, a slow meditative spiral walk around the obelisk. And there was something really special about the spiral, because you think about the kind of creation stories or the creation of Earth or the cosmos, and the spiral actually represents that symbolically, and it really just made sense to kind of incorporate that movement into the performance piece. And the obelisk itself is a kind of ancient object that recorded history of place. And I thought it would be really interesting to kind of have a conversation with place through this movement and through the object that I created. And Gabriel has been really integral to the performance part, and even the collecting. The whole kind of operation and project has been a true collaboration. And maybe you can talk a little bit about
the musical side of it?
The score, yeah.
Well, the score, once again, collaborative. The sounds that we wrote felt like the time that we spent on the road. So I think this was composed with the building of the obelisk. I think we finished the music at about the same time that she finished the obelisk. We've tapped into some Gregorian chant. We've tapped into some spiritual wailing. There's a lot of just beautiful harmonies.
I feel like Spanish keening is also.
I don't know what that means, but
yeah.
Yes. I'm saying that there's a lot of reflective, melodic, and for me specifically, knowing how serious of a subject we were tackling and wanting to represent the spirit of overcoming, of resurrection, reconciliation. I feel like the music says that. This is some of the happiest writing and the deepest I've gone into a project with, how complex the harmonies are, how much time we spent, curating the sound.
And the themes, there's really a lot of themes in the music. So the themes of the music kind of takes you on a journey. And I remember when we were recording,
the first thing we saw, I'm like, why is this reminiscent? This sounds like nostalgic of when we were when we were driving to Boley. Something about the song, we're like, man, this feels like memories.
And it happened organically. And the way I work, I'm really process oriented. So I asked Gabe, I was like, okay, so we're gonna go to the different towns. We're gonna stop, we're gonna write during our travels there. And that just wasn't the way it worked out at all.
Yo, let's stop in the middle of the road and start a piece. Get the computer out.
We should write the songs on site. But it really didn't work out that way. And I think it was really good that we were able to kind of really be in the experience of collecting and the kind of journeys.
Reflect on it, and it gets in your dreamscape. It's somewhere it buries, and because I feel like I dream in road trip form sometimes.
Yeah.
The things that we saw, I'm telling you, it came out in the music even despite intent. I feel like it's something happened naturally. I don't want to get too metaphysical on it, but I feel like the music represents the piece, and I hope the towns are proud of the piece.
The construction of the obelisk is made from the clay collected from the 13 historical Black towns. So what I've used in combination with that clay is a polymer. So I wanted the clay to really speak for itself and give the history of the towns. I feel like that also is something that really drove our narrative in terms of the score and the performance. So the clay is really like the anchor to the whole piece itself.
And to that point, these are the actual colors of the town. This is the clay, like from digging to truly honor it. I mean, there's, other than the polymer, this is the earth collected from the towns. So I thought that was I wasn't involved on the visual construction. She's the music, I'm the music guy, she's the visual lady. And just the richness of the color, I was so surprised to come back into the studio and see, I was like, you didn't add anything to this? You didn't put anything? So it's,
no, the pigments are
the beauty of the earth is
the pigments
very
are
rich.
Super rich, and I kind of devised my own kind of process of like creating the clay, because you can't just like get it straight from the ground and like start like using it and manipulating it, right? So it was like a whole process. So digging it out of the ground, it usually comes as a real, what like ceramicists would say, really plastic clay. So it's really like malleable and, you know, kind of almost like tacky. But I found that it was easier to process the clay by drying it out. And so by drying it out, I was able to get like whatever pests out. I would dry it out in the sun, and then I would hammer it down into like really kind of small, almost like gravel. And then I actually bought like a grain processor that you would put like rice grain and everything through. And I would put the clay through the like grain grinder, and it would make like a really, really fine powder. So as you are grinding all these different towns, I was able to see this kind of gradation of earth tones. Yeah, a story through like the earth tones. It was like really beautiful. So some of the towns, like all of the towns are in there, but I also mixed all the different kind of dried powdered pigments that came like from processing the clay to kind of create this gradation of color, because it's like so rich to see. Like, you know, the clay from Tullahassee is like, you know, more of a like grayish, taupish color, but the clay from Boley is like a deep maroon.
I think this is Boley right here, right?
Yeah, that's Boley and Tatums. And so yeah, I mixed a lot of the light clays to kind of get the variation. And the only one that's like a pure, just one town is the town of Tatums. And that's this third from the bottom panel right here, yeah. The whole piece was super meditative. Like even the process of kind of creating the pigments and processing the clay, I think this performance is really kind of reflective of reverence to earth, but also like respect for process, you know, and putting process pretty much over object. I know that the object is the outcome, but the process of kind of creating it is really kind of made the piece come together. You have all of these different elements, and the process is what I think really like shines through each element.
Can I add that in working with her, I mean, we've collaborated on other things before, but I don't think we've ever done something of this scale by any means. And the process that I had before this project was, how do I put it, much lazier. I was a looser on schedules, but having worked with her, and the amount of focus that she's put into it and henceforth made me have, has made this into a complex work that has made, thinking back on the amount of work we put into the project and the process of it, it's given it a richness to myself. Like I feel enriched having done this project, because seeing her processes, it's inspirational. And I don't mean that just as friends. This is a true compliment. Like
Thank you.
she's a worker, and it you know, it upped my game, made me made me a better musician on the spot. It wouldn't, if she'd left me alone and just to do this at my house, it wouldn't be where it's at right now. So I'm giving props to her for visualizing this whole thing and having a true vision for the music as well.
And it was really amazing to work with Gabriel on this piece, because I've always had like so much respect for his work, truly inspirational and just a multi-instrumentalist and composer. So when I was thinking about, you know, how this piece could actually be layered, he's the person who could do it. And not only because of his musical skill and acumen, but also because he is able to translate what I'm thinking into like.
That's a challenge. That is a challenge.
That was a challenge.
I think that was part of the fun of it for me, though, is because as a composer, to not have to come up with every idea. I'm like, no, sing me something, Ashanti, and she's like, oh. I'm like, ding, 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 ding.
Exactly.
So it gave me a chance to work not from like, you know. You know what you're thinking, you know what you're gonna do, but to have to translate somebody else it's a stretch. It's it's growth, you know, to be able to see from somebody else's perspective or translate somebody else's thought. So not being a trained musician, you know, I can't just be like, you're in the wrong key, because a lot of people will do that when working with somebody who doesn't have, oh, that's A flat. Like a lot of producers are very condescending. Let's just put it like that. But if you have the right ear and the right perspective behind it, it's a lot of fun to translate for somebody. Like, okay, you don't know how to play that, but I do. And then, you know, so this is a true collaboration. I give her a lot of credit on the musical themes. I came up with the chord progressions, but a lot of the melodies and vocals in here are this musician, visual artist right here. So
I wouldn't claim musician, but I definitely.
Singer-songwriter. I mean, you construct music. I don't know if Pink can claim it. I think you can.
Okay, well, I'll claim it. I'm a musician as well. We can put that
put that
in the beginning of
we
the
getting
interview.
off subject? Because I mean, I just wanted to say I really enjoyed working with somebody who kept us on track.
What's really important to me is the focus on the towns, you know? Like there's so many beautiful like people in each of these towns that are like energizing like a renaissance and a rebirth of the towns. Like it was such a beautiful kind of idea to have these historical Black towns when they were first kind of coming up, when the railroad was coming through. And that's how, like, you know, people were kind of creating these towns, was along the railroad. But when the railroad, you know, was no longer operating.
No, when it was taken from the town, when they pulled up track and changed it from access, I didn't mean, that's just one thing that I didn't know about. I'd like viewers to know about. It was like, there's a part of this, and you can cut this out if you want to, but like there's anger that I felt when I went to these places, finding out about the history and the amount of business that was stripped from these towns that were flourishing, that were turned into ghost towns because they had no access. They changed their own area codes so that they didn't get taxes. I found that out in going to these towns and speaking to the folks and everyone in every one of the towns. Everyone was super happy to meet us and happy to be a part of the project.
Joy. the joy of this
They're like,
project.
yeah, come on my private land and dig some clay.
Yeah.
And we haven't met you from anybody, but you know what? Let's have a conversation. I'll bring some shovels. Y'all got some too.
Right.
It was a very community building, gratifying, like to know that they welcome us with open arms instead of just like, oh, look at these city slickers. Oh, you say you're from New York? No, everybody was
Yeah,
they were
it was an
welcoming.
open
It was
an open
awesome.
arms kind of. The word community does definitely come to mind when this project, because I actually went to a conference of the historical Black towns, and where each of the mayors spoke. And that's when this idea started to kind of germinate for me, in meeting all the different mayors. A lot of the mayors of the historical Black towns are older women. And there was something that was like really interesting and inspiring for me. When you ask me like, what do I want people to take away, it's just like the kind of like core narrative that is in these places that deserve like pause, that deserve reverence. And I feel like that's what I'm trying to do in the piece. I think I want to just people to think about the towns, think about what was, think about what could be, and think about the people that are still there that deserve our like respect and deserve our attention.
And just last thing, musically, the musical side of that, I'd like to say that the music it's a meditation. It's a drone, a vibration. Like it's something that, you know, I'd like people to feel calm from. It should be therapeutic. So that was my intent on the musical side, was to calm people down. She's been calling me brown noise since we started this project. And there's a lot of spots in the score that I kind of want to clip them up some point and just like repeat a certain part, because some parts are truly just like, it's like a release. So it's a healing. I think there's a healing prayer almost.
Yeah. And I feel like if you are quiet enough and you're in nature and you connect with the world around you, I feel like there is a song and a narrative that is just in the atmosphere and it's very present. And I feel like that's what we try to capture, is the kind
Listen
of...
to the chirps. Listen to the chirps.
Yeah, definitely. Soul is a Wanderer, I think it really connects to the work, because even like the video aspect, I didn't really talk about that part of it. When I think about the soul as a wanderer, I think about like, you know, how do I like kind of center myself in the world, but also like in the cosmos. It's like the soul is not a place, I mean, it's not, you know, something that could be contained. It does wander. It does go from like the future and past. It is like temporal, you know, but I'm thinking, yeah, I feel like my piece really speaks to Joy's work, or is in conversation, because, you know, I try to capture that energy of this kind of cosmos. Both cosmos and earth is what I'm trying to kind of tap into with both of the elements in the installation. The video is very much cosmos. You have like literally dust flying through the air. And when I have like the super high res 4K image of just like dust and particles and earth flying everywhere, it literally does look like, you know, the creation of you know, heavens and earth. So I think it really connects that way. When you think about the soul and you think about it wandering from, you know, earthen planes to the cosmos, and yeah, I think it connects that way.